Welcome to our webinar today, the 3 biggest and most costly mistakes keeping corporate professionals stressed, overworked, and overweight. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Alan Chong, and I'm a corporate health strategist and consultant in Calgary, Canada here. I've been in practice for over 27 years and empowering thousands of corporate and business people to get pain-free and stay pain-free. Now that's on the physical side. And then I actually start working with them to help them remove and reduce and ideally eliminate and convert and transform their stress into productivity. Empowering healthy lifestyle practices and really helping tackle the physical first, going to the mental, emotional, and helping the whole person, the holistic approach. That's what I do. Our guests today are Dr. Joanny Liu, a brain health doctor. She's a Chinese medicine and acupuncture specialist, Chinese sports medicine, author and speaker on brain injury and health. She's been seen on Fox, NBC, CTV Global, a high-performance athlete and clients across North America. She's 24 years in corporate Calgary, mostly before that, so she really knows her stuff as a professional engineer and now practices in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, but she's a brain health specialist. Welcome, Dr. Joanny.
Hi, Dr. Allen. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks.
Great to have you too. And our second guest is Carmen Dunn, who hails from Vancouver. She's a clinical and stress nutritionist, specializing in women's issues, but particularly she's very experienced in burnout, corporate burnout. So tackling that, imagine that. She's an author, speaker, instructor, one of Canada's leading nutritionists in the area of corporate burnout, as I mentioned. Carmen collaborates with top MDs, naturopaths, nutritionists, and such for her clients across Canada and the US. A former marketing executive in corporate, she understands corporate as well. Welcome, Carmen Dunn.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Alan.
Great. So our first and foremost topic we want to address is what are the 3 biggest and most costly mistakes keeping corporate professionals like you stressed, overworked, and overweight. And I'll bet you it's not things that you necessarily put all together. And so we're here to share in this very hopefully revealing webinar the things that you need to know, want to know, but didn't know, and let's connect some dots today. So Dr. Joanny, brain health doctor, what are you going to be sharing with us today about stress? A big mistake or several big mistakes that people are making in the corporate world about being stressed.
Well, one of the topics that isn't talked about much is definitely about the disastrous effects of stress on the corporate brain. I mean, one of the things that's very important here is that we've got all this fantastic research that isn't being applied right now, and we need to change that instead of just talking about stress in passing.
Exactly. So what key topics, what can you share with our audience today is a big mistake that people are making in those office towers and businesses today?
Well, it's about trying to manage things instead of actually taking control of things. That's very important.
Okay, but what you mentioned something very interesting to me and our audiences. That is that brains, and in our previous conversations, brains are potentially being damaged or changing due to stress.
Okay, well, I guess we're talking about then the onset of Alzheimer's and other dementias. And what I'd like to talk about then is the myths about Alzheimer's. There's three of them that I find that are extremely important. One of them is that that heredity and genetics are high stress, are high risk factors in Alzheimer's, when in fact it only occurs in 5% of all cases. A second one is that aluminum is actually, the evidence about aluminum is actually inconclusive, so we don't really know for sure if aluminum is a factor or not. But the most important myth about Alzheimer's is that out of the top 10 deadliest diseases in the industrialized Western world, apparently Alzheimer's is supposed to be unpreventable, incurable, and impossible to slow down. And of course, if we are to look at it seriously and use all that wonderful research in neuroscience, neuropsychology, and neurophysiology, neuroplasticity, wow, we have a wealth of information that we can use to be outside the box so that people don't have to feel so helpless and hopeless about getting Alzheimer's.
So what would you say is conclusive out there, though, about Alzheimer's and dementia? Are they connected? For example, it's highly scary these days. Statistics showing that not that everyone of the 25% of people will die with some form of dementia or Alzheimer's included. Now that people are living longer, that's a factor. There's lots of reasons for that. But what would you say is a mistake that might be contributing to degenerative brain problems?
Well, definitely the mistake that people are probably making is the fact that they don't pay attention to that stress, that there's too much lip service about lowering your stress level, when that really doesn't mean very much. So everybody's wondering, well, how do I lower my stress levels? And that's the sort of thing that we're going to be talking about in Calgary at our one-day event on January 29th.
And stay tuned in this webinar. We are going to be doing a preview of what we're covering in that webinar. So stay tuned for that. So Dr. Joanny, what would you say, like you're talking about stress, but not the hows, because we're definitely going to address that in depth. Today we're just scratching the surface of what the problem is, the three biggest mistakes, one being that's keeping them stressed. What other factors do you feel are keeping corporate stressed right now?
Okay, we really have to look at new risk factors that have just recently been discovered. And there is a correlation between whether your cardiovascular health is poor, because there's a relationship between your heart health and your brain health. So a mistake is to neglect your heart health. Your cardiovascular health is just as important. Also, your general health also has a factor of risk of Alzheimer's. So you've got to stay in top shape. So don't just think that if you're just going to be, oh, what's the word? If you're going to neglect one area of your health, that you're going to be in the clear for your brain. That's not true. And the other thing is that brain injury is also a risk factor. I guess it has a lot to do with all the stuff that's going on with football players and hockey players. But a brain injury, including a concussion, can contribute to Alzheimer's. So you've got to take care of all these things.
Right. Now, this is one of your areas of specialty, right? Concussions, that fully relates to brain health. And certainly many people actually do get various versions of brain injury, most of them minor, fortunately. But give us some examples of where that might be the case.
What would be the case of?
Mild brain injury, like recreational sports, whiplashes, those type of things.
You know, I wouldn't call a single one of those things minor. I think that's a misnomer. A brain injury is a brain injury no matter what it is. As long as you're having symptoms of many headaches, nausea, vomiting, eye problems, loss of appetite, insomnia, then you have a serious problem. And that would be a mistake to think that a concussion isn't serious.
Right, no, and I didn't mean to say a concussion isn't serious, but certainly there is grading of it and such, and our audience needs to know that that needs to be looked after properly and effectively. And Dr. Joanny, that is one of your specialty areas of practice and consulting, correct?
Correct.
Right. So what can we learn about the parallels of that? Would you equate, inappropriate work and too much stress in someone's life like brain injury, like an actual concussion?
Yeah, because stress really does have disastrous effects on the brain. It's already been shown in research that you can shrink certain parts of your brain, because the thing is that we have such a thing as neural networks. So neural networks are formed by thoughts. So if a thought pattern becomes a habit, then what you're doing is that you're reinforcing those neural networks every time you have the same thought patterns. And all it takes is looking at something or reading something that reminds you, even watching the news at night and you get upset, well, you're reinforcing a very serious neural network. And because of that, your brain starts shrinking. I mean, I only have a few minutes to explain this, but your brain starts shrinking because, one, it's killing, the stress hormones are killing off your brain cells, and the other thing is that your brain stops creating more brain cells, so that's why your brain starts shrinking over the long run. And of course, an Alzheimer brain looks very different from a normal brain because it's a lot smaller, and that's the reason why you have to be really careful about what you're thinking about, and not just that, how you feel about what those thoughts are.
Right. So what you're saying in summary is mindset is huge, and many people right now, there's so much stress in the Calgary area and many parts of corporate, and that's filtering down to the society in general, and that's a major concern. I see it in my clinics every single day, and with layoffs, job cuts, job losses, you name it. There's a lot of stress out there right now. So Dr. Joanny, how a quick summary as we wrap up your section here, and keep in mind there's question and answer coming up, so please submit your questions, and we're going to address those later on the program. So be sure to stay in tune for that. Now, the last question I have is about that stress. Is that what can people practically do in very short period of time, say, and of course you're going to be covering that a lot more in a live program.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to get into a proper mindset. Okay, one of the things that I teach my clients, which is very important, is where their priorities are. And the top priority I always preach to them is that their top priority must be their own health. Second priority is family. Then third is their job or career. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're number one, then you'll be unable to take care of number two and number three. And one of the other things that's really important is to understand what you have control over. Okay, most people will agree that they have control over themselves. But then when you dig a little deeper, actually not very deeper, they'll think they have control over their employees, over their boss, over their spouses, their kids, all that, and events and situations, when unfortunately we really don't have control over that. And so I teach them to learn how to let go of that, and that really decreases their stress levels by quite a bit.
Right, for sure. Great tips there. Audience, I hope you're taking that all in and taking some notes. That's terrific. There will be room for question and answer, as I mentioned before, as we address the 3 biggest mistakes biggest and most costly mistakes keeping corporate professionals stressed, overworked, and overweight. Right up next is addressing overworked. Thank you, Dr. Joanny, as we look forward to questions and answer later on. But the next topic I'm going to tackle, and that is the overworked aspect. Now, in my clinic, we're really practicing 27 years basically in corporate Calgary, right downtown. With my 3 clinics, I've seen the wide variety of people and helped most, of course. And those of you who seek help the most are my best patients and clients, right? When you seek to learn and understand what is truly going on with yourself. So today what I want to address is the fact of being overworked. And I approach it a little bit differently. Now, overworked for the vast majority of people is in corporate is hours sitting. And we know that sitting is killing us, despite regular exercise, is what was announced early in 2015. That sitting is actually killing us. Studies were put together and determined that epidemiologic studies that showed that exercise did not significantly make a difference for the mortality of people that were under sitting. And sitting was associated with all kinds of other chronic diseases. So basically the number of hours sitting is a huge risk. Now, when I talk about overwork, yes, the actual physical hours is a problem. So, but what affects people is their spine. I'm concerned, and I see and help a lot of people with back pain, neck pain, chronic shoulder tension, headaches, a lot of things that seem obvious due to overwork and stress and that combination of factors. But I want you to think a little bit differently. And that difference is the physical aspect of wear and tear on your spine. So sitting actually is number 2 for the amount of pressure on the lower lumbar discs of the spine. The most pressure is actually forward bending, and then added to that is lifting would be the absolute highest amount of newtons of force going through that lumbar spine. But sitting sits up there in the number 2 rank for that. So most people aren't aware that chronic sitting, or sitting for hours and hours on end, even if you get up for a few minutes an hour, that is going to unload the spine enough to get some circulation of the fluids. Now the disc itself is without significant blood supply. So what happens is when you don't have significant blood supply, it relies on movement, the disc, for the health of the disc and the joints of the spine. So sitting is actually a major risk factor for degeneration, otherwise known as osteoarthritis in the spine. Now that can occur and does occur at the neck as people experience and sit there in front of their computers for long hours at a time. And preparing for some of these things, I've actually experienced tech neck, what I call tech neck, and text neck, where people are actually bent forward like that, and you may relate to that yourself. Or even more troublesome is to see kids and teenagers starting to develop a permanent hump. So if teenagers are developing a permanent hump, and I affectionately call it senior partner syndrome for my corporate people, is they start developing a permanent hump. Now, the good news is that most of that is preventable not from necessarily working less hours, even though that might be your thing that you need to do. Everyone's different, but developing that hump is a serious matter. It affects the cardiovascular system, compromises the lung capacity, and again, that puts a person at risk of heart disease, heart attack, stroke, the whole bit. There's a whole bunch of things that both Carmen Dunn is going to be addressing about that, but certainly in our live event, we're just touching upon bits right now, and in our live event, we actually go through a full day of workshopping and lecturing to really give you the meat of everything about the factors and the things that you can do about it. So number one with overwork is the number of hours actually sitting straight sedentary. Number two is the amount of time that you do not take little rest breaks. And number three is there is an exercise benefit to balancing your lifestyle. That might be the noon hour walks, yoga, other activities to break up your day. And so these are things that are essential for decreasing the effect of overworked. But again, the lesson today would be that overworked in the sitting position is disastrous, is deadly, and in the sense that degeneration, if not anything, causes disability, causes pain, chronic pain, and pinched nerves, sciatica, seen it all. And you know, over 27 years of practice helping my patients / clients, you know, the people that do the best are the ones that change their lifestyles, start stretching more often daily, and do some of these things. But all great stuff that we want to spend a day with you and cover. So that's the topic of being overworked. Now, what you've been waiting for, again, if you've just joined us, the three biggest mistakes and most costly mistakes keeping corporate professionals stressed, overworked, and overweight. Now, Carmen Dunn, clinical and stress nutritionist, tell us what you want to address today with being the overweight problem.
Yeah, thanks for that, Alan. So today I'm going to be talking about weight gain, but specifically stress-induced weight gain. So oftentimes people think it's a question of diet or exercise, and all the things I'm going to be talking about today are showing how you are putting on weight, and it has nothing to do with how good your diet is or how much you're working out in a gym.
Yeah, so exactly. So it's not necessarily the gym that saves you. In fact, proof is showing that the gym is not going to save you. It just helps in certain areas, correct?
Yeah, and in some cases it'll actually have zero effect depending on what's going on.
Tell us more about that. Tell us more about the topic of what leads to this overweight. I mean, obesity is a huge problem now, and many in Canada, certainly, and parts of the U.S. With office workers.
Sure. So I'm going to just share three of the things, excuse me, that I've prepared for you today here. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is when people have what I call the go-go-go syndrome. So this is when people they tend to have what I call like Superman or Superwoman syndrome, where they're constantly on the go, right? So from the moment they wake up in the morning, they're tired, they didn't get enough sleep, they're stressed, so they head to work skipping breakfast, right? And whenever, you know, an hour later, by the time they get to work, that they're going to have low blood sugar, and so a stress hormone named cortisol is going to be released. Throughout the day, all the different stressors are going to add up, and every time cortisol is released, that is actually going to contribute to weight gain. So there's two different ways in which that happens. So the first way is that every time cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and it's not necessarily bad, we produce it for a reason, but it's when we overproduce it that it can start to have some negative effects. So every time it comes into our bloodstream that it's been released, the majority of what we call the cortisol receptors are actually located in our stomach. So what that means is that every time cortisol is released, it's actually going to build up the adipose tissue, aka the fat on our belly, and it's going to contribute to what we call stress belly. So this is why a lot of my clients that come to me and they tell me that they want to lose 5 to 10 pounds, 25 pounds, and you know, I ask where are the majority of the pounds showing up on their body, and they're like, oh, it's my belly, it's my belly. You know, they've got skinny legs, skinny arms, but it's that majority of the weight is on their belly. It's because of the cortisol. So again, it wouldn't matter how good your diet was, how, you know, organic, non-GMO it was, or even if you were working out at the gym, you could still be putting on the pounds just because of the stress you're under with your work. The second reason is that anytime cortisol is released in the body, it triples our insulin response. So, well, I'm going to go into that in a second, actually. So what I want you to remember for this first mistake is, every time you're in that go, go, go syndrome, I'm running to work, I'm running to a networking meeting after work, I'm running around, dropping my kids off at, soccer practice, art practice, karate, running around all the time, you are constantly releasing cortisol, and that is going to be contributing to your belly fat. The second mistake I wanted to share is something that's very, very common, and it's eating while working. More specifically, eating while you're stressed. Right? So a lot of people try to multitask and catch up on missed work by eating when they're at work, right? They eat in front of their computer. And this is actually one of the things that I train my clients to avoid. And I train them to, or educate them to actually take a break, because eating is sacred. There's a reason why people take siestas in Europe, right? Eating is sacred. It is not something that is meant to be done with working. So when you're eating and you're on your laptop and you're on your iPhone and people are texting you and you're trying to finish a PowerPoint for a client meeting and you're eating, you're actually not present with your body and how you feel when you eat. So this is why a lot of women and men tend to overeat, is because they don't actually get the sensations that they've filled up. Yeah. But more specifically, there's two other reasons why I don't want you to do this. So one of them is when you are actually stressed, your digestive system shuts down. And what I mean by this is the stomach acid will not be secreted in your stomach. It will not properly break down your lunch. And what you're going to experience, by 1 p.m. or so, is you're going to experience fatigue. You're going to experience bloating, gas, indigestion, acid reflux, all because you didn't secrete enough stomach acid to actually break down that food and start the proper active digestion. The second reason is what I kind of came into previously, is that when you eat when you're stressed, it triples your insulin response to the food you ate. So what that means is if you ate, say your lunch is 1,000 calories, your body will actually interpret that as 3,000 calories. So even if you ate a decent, healthy meal, you had salmon and a salad, your body is actually going to interpret that as if you ate 3 of those meals, contributing to excess weight gain. So it's really, really important that you turn your eating habits into something that is sacred. You owe it to your health, and just kind of like what Dr. Joanny was talking about with changing your priorities around your health, is take that half an hour away. Go into the lunchroom. If you want to be away from your colleagues, because sometimes people are stressed and they don't want to see their boss or colleagues, go somewhere where you can be alone. Even if that means you have to go to a restaurant or eat away from your work, I'm totally fine with it. I just want you to be in a calm environment where you're not stressed and all you're practicing, or all you're doing in the moment is eating. You're paying attention to your body, you're calm, and you'll actually fill up on less food. The last thing I want to share with you is a very common one that I see with my clients, and it's constantly staying up late. So one of the things my clients experience is that they're exhausted and tired throughout the day, they're dragging their heels to get through work, and by the time they get home at around 6 p.m.-ish, they crash on the couch. And so they don't have that energy to actually, clean up the dishes, make dinner, help their kids with homework, but they push through, and then suddenly they get what I call a second wind, and it's basically cortisol that's been released, and they get the best energy they've had all day, the best mental clarity, and they end up working. So they'll work on their computer in their bed, and they could work nonstop up to 2 a.m. They'll be very productive, they'll get a lot done, but the problem is, A, they're going to have difficulty falling asleep, and B, if they have to get up at 6 or 7 a.m. the next morning, they're only going to get 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep, contributing to more fatigue the next day, right? So what I want to invite you to do is to not tap into that second wind. Don't work in the evening. Avoid it as much as you can, because when you're staying up late, you're going to have sleep issues. It's going to be very difficult to fall asleep. The other issue, specifically to weight gain, is that we know according to research, that if you do not get enough sleep for your body, it's going to trigger what we call a leptin deficiency. And leptin is a hormone that turns off our appetite. So one of the things that we see very often is that Men and women who do not get enough sleep will overeat the very next day because their body doesn't secrete enough leptin. So if you're dealing with weight gain and you don't know where it's coming from, you're like, I'm eating well, I'm working out at the gym, I don't understand why I keep gaining weight. Look at your sleep habits. If you're not getting, 8 or 9 hours of sleep, what you need for your body, that is probably going to trigger a lot of overeating the next day, and specifically for sugary type foods. So yeah, those are the 3 things that I wanted to share with you right now.
Awesome. So we've got some questions here. Is how does, there's so much work to do, overworked, there's so much stress. Just give us a tidbit of what you would cover at the in a longer session with you. What's something practical that our audience can go with? It's easy to say, well, maybe don't work in bed. I've heard that.
Well, awareness is always key for the first thing. So if you recognize that you're the type of person that works very late into the evening and then you have difficulty falling asleep, you need to become aware of that. The other thing is that there's blue light that's emitted from our TVs, our laptops, iPhones, computers, and it contributes to electronic stimulation. It stimulates the pineal gland in the brain and inhibits melatonin production.
Exactly, which means poor sleep or can't sleep.
Exactly, because melatonin is our sleep hormone. It's what helps us sleep. But if all that blue light is coming in through our eyes and it's stimulating the pineal gland, your melatonin won't actually have a chance to rise. So in the meantime, there is an app that I get my clients to put onto their laptops. It's free. It's called Flux, F.LUX. And basically what it does is it syncs with your time zone, and during the evening it will start to slowly pull out that blue light and switch it with like an orangish pinkish hue. So that will at least counteract the electronic stimulation. But the other thing is just getting a proper sleep hygiene in place where 1 hour before bed you are not on the phone, or sorry, well, yeah, even your iPhone can do that, but you're not on any electronics. You have to make changes in your life, and as Dr. Joanny was saying, and you have to change priorities around. The other thing we know is that the best time for adults to be sleeping is between 10 p.m. and midnight, and we say that 1 hour of sleep before midnight is equivalent to 2 hours of sleep after midnight. So if you're the type of person that has to get up very early, you've got kids, you've got early morning meetings, then I'd actually invite you to get to bed 1 hour before. So maybe you're trying to fall asleep by 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. because the quality of the sleep you're going to get is much more than if you were to fall asleep after midnight.
Right. Wow. Awesome tips there. Some great content. And tell us a little bit about what you're going to give us a little bit of a preview of what you're going to talk about at the live event we're all doing together in January in Calgary here, downtown Calgary, January 29th, all day Friday. It's going to be a de-stressing event.
Yeah, so at the event, I'm going to be taking people through all 10 of the habits that corporate professionals make that contribute to weight gain and fatigue throughout the day. So I've just shared 3 with you, but I've got 10 more. And then, I've put together a workshop where we're actually going to go look at certain lifestyle habits and food habits. There's a lot of foods that actually contribute to stress and weight gain. They actually exacerbate how much stress and anxiety you feel. So, just telling people simple things like coconut water. That's a big one that my clients don't realize, is that coconut water, it's a seemingly healthy food. It's, you can't visit a yoga studio without seeing it. But coconut water, the combination of the fructose and the potassium in it actually cause people to become dizzy and fatigued about an hour after. So it's about identifying certain little foods, even seemingly healthy ones that are in their diet, that are not only contributing to fatigue, but also weight gain throughout the day, or exacerbating the stress response.
Sure, excellent. And of course you have much more time to develop those and get really into it to the individual, right? And people get access to you to ask specific questions.
Absolutely.
Dr. Joanny, did you have what are you going to be talking about at the live event?
Well, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the corporate brain. So we're going to be talking about the brain off stress and the brain on stress and how that all affects the brain. Because you've got to be able, you've got to know what's going on so that you can make the right decisions, so that you can prioritize correctly. And then later on the day, I'm going to be doing a workshop about how to interrupt stressful thinking, which is so important, because if you don't know, because the funny thing is that I deal with a lot of people with anxiety and worry, and they don't even know why they feel anxious or why they feel worried. You know, life should be really good, but they haven't been able to identify what those problems are. So I'm just going to help people to identify what those core problems are, and then we're going to work on them.
And the key thing is awareness, isn't it? For all this transformation starts with awareness, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. That's where we're going to go.
And so I'm going to share with you briefly what I'm going to cover is a lot to do with some very basics that most people don't know about ideal posture and alignment, which is basically applied to ideal ergonomics. Now, I could say with very high accuracy that most of you watching this program do not have good ergonomics. Even though you've had ergonomic assessments, you have ergonomic support, maybe you even have great workstations, very expensive workstations, but the vast majority of you do not use it properly. So at our training, the training, I will go over the specifics so you can learn to apply it specifically to yourself and fix your ergonomics at work, which is going to, again, take a lot of the degeneration factor out of your spine, help you feel a lot more comfortable, get rid of that frown from your face from having shoulder tension, back pain, and such, and teach you some practical things. Now, that's the first part. The second part is I'm going to be showing you from experience and the experience with many corporate people and executives some real tangible ways to transform your workplace from a stressed place to a highly productive, efficient place. And it all starts with you and what you do with yourself. And from my standpoint, a big part of it starts with the physical self. If you can de-stress your physical self, you'll go a long ways to start de-stressing these other things. Now, what Dr. Joanny and Carmen Dunn are going to be addressing, certainly it just completes the package there. Now, I want to share this with you is, notice that if you're stressed all the time, stressed spelled backwards is desserts. So let's make it make stressed into desserts. Why can't we just make it easy? And this slide is, what if work were a celebration of your success? What if it were success instead of just simply struggling through this day and that way? I can't wait till the day's finished. I can't wait till the week's finished. I can't wait until my vacation. And some of you are at your wit's end. Some of you are at your limits. So what is it that really gets in the way of your productivity, your confidence, your your work that used to be passionate about it? What gets in the way? Often it's those three things, right? Stressed, you're overworked, and you're not feeling good about yourself. And perhaps it's a weight issue. Perhaps it's other health issues in addition to weight. So that's what we will definitely cover. And today, again, there's going to be question and answers. We're going to move to where we talk about some of the testimonials that people have worked with me. Now, I want to share, just, you can read that too, but I've helped people. This Tara said that I have a new body. This and so much more are part of the program. The go-to person to find out how. I mean, thank you, Tara, for sharing that. But I want to share a story about we've changed her name. Well, let's call her Linda, 53-year-old corporate manager, highly successful. She's done very well in her number of positions, and she did tell me on several occasions over the years that there's just a lot of stress, there's just a lot happening, and just recently she had some issues that she came in to consult me for, and I said, you need to get this looked after. Something's really not right. You might know someone in that situation. Something is just not right with them, and then you find out something else has happened. They may never come back to work. I mean, I hope this Linda comes back to work, not just for the sake of work, because when someone has a serious illness, she was recently diagnosed with non-smokers lung cancer, never smoked in her life. Her husband does not smoke. It's just one of those things, but there is non-smokers lung cancer, and it had spread to her brain. She's got a 20-year-old son, very successful in what he's doing, and where does that leave a person? Where does that leave the team? Is work really that important anymore when you know that there's other much more important things in life? And how long is life going to be? So those are things that really hit home when I decided to create this program that we're going to give you the preview now, De-stressing Leadership. So I want to move into that, and we're going to have questions and answers. First of all, panel, please tell us about, maybe pick one other case that you can think of that was really profoundly moved you, and that they could have and are moving to prevent what they've been going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could offer one here, Dr. Allen. So I recently had a client here in Vancouver that just went through one of my programs, and she came to me for a lot of the same reasons that a lot of people do. So it was weight troubles, anxiety, very high stress, and insomnia. She basically ran 2 different companies, and so a lot of stress for her. Her energy was low, her iron was even lower, and she was really having difficulty getting out of bed. And so I put her into my program, and just after 2 months, she was already down 8 pounds. But her digestion was better, her bloating was down, she stopped sneezing throughout the day, she had no PMS, which is a big issue for a lot of women out there because stress will absolutely affect the menstrual cycle. Yeah. Her energy went way up to the point where she didn't have to rely on caffeine to get through the day, and she felt very supported with me throughout the process. And I checked in with her 2 months after, because I always like to check in to see if they've kept up with the results. And she said that, her energy was even so much better at that point. She was now down 14 pounds. And the best part, Alan, was that she was able to work long hours without burning out and being able to stay focused for the first time since she had ever started these 2 companies. So, and this is like it's the same success that I see with all my clients when they go through it, because so many people are dealing with that weight gain, the exhaustion, dragging themselves throughout the day. They're absolutely, dependent on coffee. And I'm not talking about drinking coffee because you enjoy your latte. I'm talking about you cannot get through the day without consuming your coffee, right? And within 2 months, boom, the energy comes back. And I actually qualify that by saying they gain 2 hours more energy in the evening. It's guaranteed 10 pounds weight loss and more calm. So a lot of people are dealing with, the anxiety which follows the stress. It's, forward-thinking, future-pacing worrying, and then the depression. And so they deal with kind of both throughout the same day, and I'm able to, bring them back to a state of calmness.
For sure. And the physiology behind that, of course, you understand very well, but most people don't get it. So that's why most people need additional training and working with a consultant to get to that point. Isn't that true, Carmen Dunn?
Yeah, I mean, all the info is out there, but the thing is do we really have time? Do I have time to go and learn accounting for my own practice? Do I have time to go out and learn everything? No, the reality is we don't have time to be an expert in everything, and that's why you hire an expert who's able to go in and tweak these things that you've never thought about, because your job isn't a nutritionist, that's my job. But the second most important thing is we all need a little kick. We all need someone to be accountable to. Without that accountability, that information is useless. So people need someone to hold them by the hand, to lead them through a plan, to help them, tweak things as they go, because it is going to be hard. And I always say, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's human behavior. I always say that humans by nature were designed to be lazy, because if we go back to the days of caveman didn't know when he was going to get his next meal. So, they were lazy to conserve energy. And so we still carry a lot of these characteristics. So just knowing that when you start a new plan for whatever it is in life, you're going to move forward, but then there'll be a tiny little bit of regression. And it's normal. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. The important part is you keep going forward and you have someone that's helping you through the process.
That's key, isn't it? That really walking through the process and not just the facts. I mean, a lot of the facts are out there. I agree with you completely, Carmen Dunn. Dr. Joanny, who are the best people? Here's a question that's come up: is who are the best candidates for coming to such a live event? Your training, our training.
Who are the best
candidates? Who should be coming to this?
Anyone who is experiencing high stress levels, who is having difficulty making decisions, who is suffering from a little bit of self-confidence, from a lack of self-confidence, because it's difficult times right now. I've certainly lived through a number of recessions myself, seen the price of oil go all the way down to $10 a barrel, lived through the NEP, I've been through it all, and I've had to learn many, many lessons through it all. The thing is that you can cope. You just need to be guided to the methodology and the processes that will keep you healthy and sane during these insane times.
Right, well said. And there is strategy behind that. Health strategy, as I call it, that's one of my areas of expertise, is to have systematic ways that you can tackle through teamwork, really. That's why, I love our team, that we're going to deliver a comprehensive package, really, that will help a person transform within a day. Now, it's not a miraculous transformation necessarily. It really is to get you kick-started so that you have the opportunity to make the changes, you know what to do, and you actually know specifically what steps you can take as next steps, right? Carmen Dunn, more on that? Like, what do you see this live training, corporate training, how it's going to benefit people?
Oh gosh, I've yet to have a person go through one of my presentations where they weren't running up to me saying, "Oh my God, you just hit everything on the nail. I'd never even considered that before." So I don't give the standard information of, "Oh, eat an apple a day. Oh, just start meditating." If people knew how to be healthy, they'd be doing it already. If people knew how to meditate, they'd be doing it already. So, people need help on how to fit new healthy strategies into their already crammed, busy lifestyles. And one of the main intentions I give my clients is, my job is to take stress away from your life. I am not there to add more stress. So everything I've done has been to help people make small incremental baby steps that fit in their lifestyle. So with regards to the event, is they're going to walk away being able to be, or you guys are going to walk away being able to be completely aware. You're going to see yourself in all these different scenarios I'm going to point out and be like, oh, and then you're going to know exactly what to tweak, because I'm going to tell you exactly what to tweak, so you know how to make these little changes throughout your day, Monday to Friday. And I'm really focusing only on Monday to Friday, because what we want to help you do is increase your energy, increase your productivity, your focus, throughout Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, although we really know nobody works 9 to 5. It's more than that, isn't it? But so you're going to be able to see yourself in certain scenarios and know exactly what to change so that you can increase your energy, productivity, lose weight really fast, actually, the very next day.
Actually, right. Dr. Allen, can I jump in with a story?
Please do.
Okay. I had a client who was a corporate manager, and he was in his 50s, and he had anger issues. It got to the point where he got out of his car in a parking lot and started arguing with the guy over a parking spot. Meanwhile, his wife is standing outside of the car, and God, you know, she wanted to dive under a rock somewhere because it was so embarrassing. But what drove him to me was the day when he was so angry at his little son that he almost struck his little son. And he just stopped himself, and at that moment he knew, oh my God, I almost did something horrible. So he had already gone to see a psychotherapist, and that person just told him to go and read a certain book. And he thought, my God, I didn't want directions to the library. I wanted somebody who really cared enough to actually sit and talk to me and give me some guidance. And so we started our relationship. And yeah, you know, he had all the signs of anger because he had a very swarthy, dark complexion. His eyes were bloodshot. He was a bit overweight. He had some very strange other physical symptoms that we won't talk about here, but he was clearly extremely upset, and he just didn't know what to do. And at the time, in his time too, the stock market had just dove, and he was worried about that too. So it was work, family, and his finances. So everything was converging at the same time. So during that time, it was really about talking him through a number of strategies to really identify what it was that was really bothering him. And a lot of it has to do with lack of confidence, that he can't deal with life. Okay, and this is a real big one. And there are specific things that he didn't know what to do in order to deal with those things. So finally, towards the end of our relationship with each other, he had a real light in his eyes, a really light complexion. He was happy again, and the best thing about it was, before he reacted to anything, he thought twice about what he was going to do about a situation. So he never lost control again. And he also had a coffee addiction, and he got down to just one coffee on a date with his wife once a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
That's amazing.
Good job.
That's a great story. And Dr. Joanny, you're going to be workshopping that type of thing, right?
Yes, it's going to be a very important workshop on January 29th. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, those are great stories. We're getting a lot of questions about the event. I'm going to share with you a couple slides that I prepared, and then give you an opportunity to work with us, which is great. Let's just blast through a few of these. Our event is called, right here in Calgary, De-stressing Leadership. It's a corporate training one-day live event, January 29th, 2016. And I'm giving you my personal invitation to train with me, and obviously my very experienced and knowledgeable stress experts, for an amazing day of learning and discovery and action with transformation. Again, awareness leads to transformation. And for those of you who know you need something, this event is for you. Know you need something more than a stress management course, this event is for you. And you need that community, that sense of community, this event is for you, because you're not alone in the stress. We all feel it, but this is a solution. It's the beginning of change, and it's a change that could be profound. You've heard some of the stories shared. Imagine feeling calmer, much more in control, just where things would used to drive you crazy or send you to the edge. Imagine feeling that kind of bounce off somewhat because you have a different perspective and things are more important. Maybe you've lost some weight, you're feeling better about yourself. You've begun to understand how brain health fits in all this. You've corrected, of course, your posture, alignment, and function. your ergonomics so that you actually feel physically better every day, and maybe get to your good old self again. That's what we're talking about. So we're talking about long-term solutions. We already talked about what each guest is going to talk about. Transforming your stress into productivity. Fixing your brain. Stop hurting your brain. The whole perspective on leadership. We are seeking to train leaders to be more balanced leaders. And what kind of course gives you that? Often leaders are taught technical stuff, accounting, project management, change management, all these things. But this is a very down-to-earth course, one day of intense transformation if you want it to be. It's not what you won't get. It's not quick fixes. You're not going to get the magic bullet. We don't offer pills to you as in one pill solutions. It's not lectures all day long, and it's not, boring old school stress management. And that's why, yes, this fits in the category of stress management, and if you yourself and your team feel you're needing that, definitely this course is for you. And it's not just about coping strategies. It's not just to cope. So what would you really like to be without all that stress? We're talking about de-stressing, not stress management. And I think you get that after watching this webinar. For sure, you've been sitting in front of the computer thinking, wow, there's some great stuff. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Oh, this is great. And secondly, you're listening to this webinar and you're going, yeah, maybe I need to do something. In fact, you probably know you need to do something. So you know that attending a business training like this with us in person would probably change your life, probably make the changes that you really want to do. So what are you waiting for? We have something to show you that De-Stressing Leadership Live event pricing. What we're going to do is our regular at-the-door price is $12.97, but for attending the webinar today, you not only get early bird. Early bird is on right now until December 31st, $9.97. But I particularly have had several meetings, both with my team here, as well as people in industry, and we're going to do a lot better for you. We understand, hate to use that R word, recession, but economic stress times. There's lots of stress going on. We understand. I understand. So what we've done is there's much more. Let's do a lot better. We've done 2 for 1 right now. For 48 hours, you can take advantage of 50% off your ticket. So when you watch this webinar, we'll give you actually it's 60% off the full price, $12.97, but it's only $4.97. So 50% off of early bird. That is an amazing deal. Team, what do you think?
Awesome.
We want to see you there.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
We want to help. We want to help. Yeah.
Help and empower. So for 48 hours, what you do is, if you're on your computer right now, go to destressingleadership.com, and you can check availability, because what we've set aside is a special block, a limited block of tickets at 2 for 1. So that's $4.97 per person when you order in blocks of 2. So in 2 at a time. So you'll need to order 2 tickets, but that's under $1,000. And wait, there's more. You enter the 241 promo code. Eventbrite is the platform that we're using. So go to destressingleadership.com, go to the click register now, and enter the promo code where it says in Eventbrite, and click that, and you'll check availability. If it shows your tickets come up, they're available. You'll need to buy 2 at a time. So bring a friend, colleague. Great for team members around the holiday season and to start the new year right, rewarding your team. rewarding yourself. There's people that are registering, they're using their health spending account, or they're just paying it themselves because it's an investment in yourself. Team, Carmen, what would you say about investment for yourself?
Well, I know for myself, you know, the only time that I've ever developed myself personally is when I've stepped outside of my comfort zone into something that may have potentially been scary, but that's where the magic happens, right? That's where you actually grow. The second thing is you know, I never stop investing in myself. I'm always taking workshops, always investing in conferences. I can tell you, I easily spend $1,500 on a 3-day workshop just to learn, you know, one new thing. So $497 for a 1 day is absolutely peanuts. I mean, what is that? 2 months of coffee consumption if you're drinking 1 to 2 coffees a day. But and coffee actually increases your stress response, makes you more overwhelmed, irritated, frustrated, anxious. So, you know, $497 is peanuts because you will literally, my promise is, you will be able to walk away and implement the strategies I give you the very next day. You will see a marked increase in energy. You will see a marked decrease in weight. Like, it happens every single time that I teach this to people.
Dr. Joanny, what would you say to corporate? You come from corporate, 24 years of corporate. What would you say about joining us?
I would ask this question: how much longer can I continue this way? How much longer do I want to be unhappy? How much longer can I keep burning the candle at both ends? I mean, I myself almost had a very serious cancer scare because I was taking care of stuff that I had no business taking care of. So I had to learn, I almost had to learn the hard way. I don't want anybody to have to learn the hard way.
Exactly. And, you know, one of the things I would like to share is that many of my clients, patients, have shared with me they're on the edge. Yeah. Not only are they not sure about their job, but even if they had their job, they're not sure they want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe you're in that situation.
Right.
But let's bring it back to what is really at stake, and that is looking after yourself. It's the self-care. What do you think? What do you think? It's the self-care, isn't it? If you've really brought it back to what is stressing you the most, it's all these things you did do and didn't do. Did do,
yeah.
You know, the things that you overworked, you spent too many hours, stayed up too late, drank too much coffee, used stimulants and other substances perhaps. And then what you, that's what you did do, but what you didn't do was apply basic self-care, and we're here to guide you in a full day of both community, experiential learning, and to really bring that home. destressingleadership.com. And so take advantage of our offer. That's the very best offer. That's the best it's going to be. And right now, there's more. For the first block of tickets that we're talking about, 25 will get no GST. So I can safely say there's a block of tickets, let's put it that way, till December 31st, and we'll do the best we can, is no GST. So on top of that, we're not going to charge you GST. So it's $497. That's it. Awesome. Come join us. De-Stressing Live. It's for corporate leaders, decision makers, team leads, managers, teams that have really been stressed. You've had a tough year maybe. You're the ones that we want to help at this course. So we're about to wrap. Any last words?
Actually, Dr. Allen, yes. Sorry, if I could echo something you're saying that you just made me realize is that in my practice, as you were saying, my specialty is corporate and entrepreneurial burnout. So like you were saying, and Dr. Joanny as well, is the lifestyle that most corporate professionals are sorry, the lifestyle they're living is not sustainable, right? Like the body was not the body was not designed to deal with that amount of stress. And when we look at the top 3 diseases in Canada right now, all 3 of them are stress related. So cancer is number 1, so breast being number 1 for women and prostate cancer being number 1 for men. I was just at a conference about 3 weeks ago where Dr. Troy Hudson, ND from Portland, Oregon, we were going through the contributing factors to tumor cell growth. Number 1 was stress.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, that freaked me out. So it wasn't even diet, it wasn't genes, it wasn't environment, it was stress was the number 1 contributing factor to tumor cell growth. And how many people would you think are scared of cancer right now? Like 2 in 5 Canadians are being diagnosed with cancer. The second biggest disease we're dying of is heart disease. So that means heart attack or stroke. Stress is the number 1 contributing factor to that. And I can explain how that contributes to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high heart rate. The third one is type 2 diabetes. And I want you to understand that you can get type 2 diabetes without even eating sugar. Because the way the stress response works is it massively increases sugar in your bloodstream. It's massively working on the insulin response, and it's increasing ages, and I could nerd off and go on to this, but it's causing vascular damage on the inside. So these top 3 diseases that us Canadians are dying from right now or being diagnosed with are stress related. So going back to what Dr. Johnny and Dr. Allen were saying is, this is not a sustainable lifestyle. You cannot continue living this way thinking your work will just magically disappear, because guess what? Doesn't matter how hard you work tonight, you are still going to have just as much work tomorrow. So when are you actually going to take care of yourself? Because if you die, I hate to say it, your company is going to continue on without you.
Yeah.
So
that's why we are not presenting common stuff that you've already read and been exposed to. You are going to be getting completely new information and real strategies and tools at our workshop. I mean, it's going to be explosive. It's going to be transformational.
Brilliant. And just to remind you, do what you know you need to do. And we look forward to working with you. And you're going to get not only your value, but it could transform you, and certainly make your next year and getting through this extremely stressful period of time in your life something you just are thankful for. Imagine that you just breeze through something like that because of what you knew inside you need to do. On the other side, just stop a minute and think, oh, I missed out. I should have gone to that event. Some of my colleagues went to that event, and wow. So de-stressing leadership, just gave you some funky special effects there as I was playing. destressingleadership.com. Pick up the 2-for-1. There's a limited block of tickets available to you for you lucky ones to get in on that for $4.97 alone, no GST. That's all I have to say. I mean, thank you for watching. Any last words, panel? We just look forward to helping you truly de-stress, not just to manage your stress.
Yeah, if I could just say one thing to conclude is, in order for you to succeed in your career right now, do you need to fail in your health? Because that's what happens. Most people, they overwork, they don't take vacations, they come in when they're sick, they eat out all the time because they don't have enough time to cook from scratch because, they've got all this work to do. And when you look at it from that perspective, it seems kind of crazy, because I honestly believe that in order for you to excel in your career right now, you need to excel in your health. And the only way you're going to do that is if you've got more energy, you're feeling better in your pants, you're going to be able to get out there, be more productive, get more work done, sign more clients, go after that promotion because you're feeling better, make more money, and remember potential clients or clients' names because all your cognitive function has come back. So do you want to continue on the path where you're possibly failing at your health right now, or do you want to excel in your health so you can actually advance that much further in your career?
Well said there, Carmen Dunn. I want to thank my guests, Carmen Dunn from Vancouver. Remember that our panel and Dr. Joanny Liu and me, Dr. Alan Chong, your host, and we are going to rock it January 29th, 2016. Make it your best year yet. And in a tough year, tough times, make it the advantage. Make it your advantage, as Carmen Dunn said. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Goodbye.
Bye now.
Look forward to
Bye.
seeing you.
Yeah. Come along.